I follow AI very closely, and I have been doing for a number of years. And it's quite interesting. There's a very, very good YouTube scientist, Sabine. Her name begins with H. I can't remember the name. When I find it, I'll put it up. But she takes all the latest scientific and tech announcements, and she really drills into them and really pulls them apart from a very, 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 very technical perspective. So she gets right into the weeds on quantum computing and whether it really works, and starts talking about Schrodinger's cat and stuff like that. Very interesting. But one of the interesting ones that she came up with recently is that some research has recently been published that says AI LLMs can never be genuinely intelligent because they can never be beyond language models, and where the way that human brains reason is not purely based on language. It's based on a whole variety of other inputs and processes. And we see this in chatbots, okay? And let's just say AI for what it is, right? We had big data, and big data promised everything, okay? That was going to solve our world. And then when that kind of ran out of steam, we needed something else to sell. So then we leapt in and we went, I know, let's sell AI. And we did that before. We did that with CRM, and we did it before with open systems, and we did it before with distributed computing. And we've done it over and over and over again. So let's just call it out for what it is. This is the big tech firms churning the base to take some more money out of the private equity market. That's what's going on here, right? And so PE people will become very rich, and one or two of these tech companies like Nvidia will become very, very rich. And then in 20 years' time, they'll have disappeared, or 30 years' time, they'll have disappeared. We'll never hear from them again. So that's my rant over. So answering the question now, there are some very, very interesting things that AI can do in the consumer space. So if I want to see Captain Picard on Star Trek dressed in a communist commissar's uniform and being in charge of the USSR Enterprise, and it's a video and it looks amazing, then that AI is brilliant at that. Now, what use that is, I'm not quite sure, but in terms of developing deepfakes and all of that, it's amazing. When you get to chatbots, it's absolutely useless, because as soon as you need to do anything complicated, like change your phone number on Amazon, or today I was trying to get my no claims bonus out of an insurance company for my car, complete failure, absolutely, totally, utterly useless. Whenever I see the word virtual assistant, my heart sinks, because I know I'm going to waste 20 minutes of my life before I get to speak to someone that can actually do what I want in 5 seconds. Why? Because large language models do not reason. They merely take language and predict what the next thing is going to be said. So if I say, I'd like to order, and you have to predict the next words, if I'm in a restaurant, it could be, I'd like to order food, or I'd like to order drinks, or I'd like to order fish, or I'd like to order you outside and go away, please.
Yeah.
And it's all a ranking. It's more likely if you're in a fish restaurant that you'd say, I want to order fish, than it is you'd say, I'd like to order you to go outside. Okay. But that's all it's doing. It's predicting language. It's not actually reasoning. It's not actually understanding that, fish is only on Friday. It doesn't have that contextual understanding. And that's why quite a lot of AI, when you ask it a question, whether it's Copilot or Gork or all these other ones, get the answer wrong. Not because they've got the answer wrong, it's because they've learned the answer from the internet that has, according to Jeremy Clarkson, 11 billion facts, of which 20 billion are all wrong, and that's where it's got its information from. So, of course, it's going to be wrong. And we see this over and over again. There was a case of a guy who asked for for a medical treatment for something, and the AI told him it was sodium carbonate, not sodium chloride, or something like that, because that was what its model had learned. The fact that whatever this was, it wasn't sodium carbonate, but it was something similar, was toxic, was the AI had no idea. But as a result, the guy was properly hospitalized. That was in last week. That was 2 weeks, actually 2 weeks ago. There's a classic case of the AI that made up or hallucinated, which is another word for telling rubbish, a load of court cases, and quoting them in a court case that went to a judge in the US, and the law firm got slated for it because none of this case law existed. And part of the reason for that is that AI has no ability to say, I don't know. And whenever you ask a question, it never says, I don't know. And because it can never say, I don't know, it can only ever be wrong. Because if it's right, it doesn't know. But if it's wrong, it doesn't know either. So
it's a good point.
It's like asking a particularly ignorant child to explain what Schrodinger's cat is, right? It could read it off a book, but it would have no concept of what being dead and alive at the same time is. In fact, even I struggle with that. And I read A Brief History of Time by Stephen Hawking, and I thought that was hard going. But there's no conceptual understanding. So AI can never do what people think it can do. And the realization is slowly coming. Now, can it do really interesting stuff in ERP? Yes, it can. I mean, I was at Deloitte a couple of days ago, and we were talking about some of the stuff where AI has use cases in ERP, and where that's been really successful. And it's in revenue modeling, it's in accounts receivable. It's obviously AI in accounts payable has been around for ages because we've had scanning invoices, we've had three-way matching. And that is a conceptual AI, but without the large language model. So it really depends on what your definition of AI is. But have we got to the stage in ERP yet where we can have the equivalent of Captain Picard in a communist uniform commanding the USSR Enterprise? I think we're a long way away. And I think the problem actually is having the idea about what is good. And I think it's probably more likely that in demand forecasting and anything that requires data analysis and hypotheses based on data analysis is going to be a better use case than trying to change your Amazon phone number, because as I said, the chatbots that do that at the moment are still worse than useless.
Yeah.